we have a couple more questions for you, Julian, if you don't mind.
Bring it on.
So we talked a little bit about this with Rudy, but I would love to talk about it in a more general sense, which is, what are some good tips to start introducing kink into your life? So if this is a conversation that piques your interest, if you're hearing what we're talking about and saying, hey, you know what, this feels like something I'd be interested in trying, or maybe something that I may have been doing already and didn't realize, what are some first steps that maybe you took to getting to this poly Viking power bottom kink identity? Was it first buying something made out of leather and realizing, oh, I really like the way this looks, let me buy more of this? Or was it like, what were some of those concrete, tangible first steps that you took?
Well, you honestly just mentioned one of them. I am now the proud owner of a leather corset vest thing, and I love that thing dearly. But that was one of my first steps of just kind of realizing, like, I think this is something I'm into. You know what? I'm just going to dive in feet first. Just let's go all in. And that was one of the things that I did, of just took that second shot of whiskey and said, you know what? Buy it. Let's do this. Let's go. That was one of the ways that I did it, as well as also I've always been kind of interested in restraint in some way or another. Going to the hardware store and getting some inexpensive rope to just kind of try learning different knots, different hitches, doing plenty of self-tying. There have been so many evenings I've been sitting on my bed with my computer going of just like a tutorial, like, oh, how do you do a Futomomo? Futomomo? Or Futomoto. Anyway, like a leg bind. How do I do this? Well, I'm the only subject that I have to work with. Let's give this a shot. Let's give this a try. And playing around with that has been one of the steps for me of kind of figuring out what exactly is it that I'm into. And one of the other things that I've done is starting to make some of my own impact toys. I currently own 5 toys that I've made, and I made my partner a paddle as well. I have 3 paddles, one wrapped with rope, so it's heavier. It's got more of that deep, thuddy sort of impact. Kind of standard paddle with just some wood-burned patterns in it that leave some lovely marks. And then another paddle with holes drilled in it, so it goes a little bit faster. It's a little spicier, so to speak. But one of my proudest, both most loved and most hated toy is a cane that I made. Being able to kind of play with all of these has been a lot of fun, and kind of figuring out, the impact side is what I'm into, and better understanding, okay, I'm more into the deep, thuddy sort of pain rather than the sharp, stingy sort of pain, which is a reason why I both love and hate the cane. It's very sharp. Oh, and I also made a Cat of Nine Tails flogger as well. So kind of like making some of my own toys has been a step in that direction. And then thankfully finding a partner who is also incredibly kinky and also very exploratory has helped a lot with kind of building my own kink identity. As I've been kind of figuring it out, there have been a couple experiences that kind of really helped solidify for me, yeah, this is something I'm into. I mean, being tied to trees and flogged for about 30 minutes was a great way for me to kind of better understand, yeah, I'm into the reception of pain and being forced to just kind of submit, forced in a consensual way.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, a DIY sex toys does sound very interesting, because I know that for me, when I first got into a more kinky sub-dom kind of approach, it was kind of intimidating to approach the toy aspect. It did feel a little bit like, okay, this feels foreign, and this feels like something that isn't, quote unquote natural, right? Like that's my baggage that I brought to the table was,
and it's also expensive to get into.
It's also very expensive, right? So especially if you want to get like good, high quality stuff. So absolutely. Building your own and making your own, as long as you're doing that in a safe way, and if you're making a paddle, stand that Sand that baby down.
Oh,
Real good.
oh, I've on each of the paddles, I think I sanded each one for about 30 minutes or so because let's be honest, there's fun pain and then there's oh god, euthanize me now pain. There's a big difference between the two. I mean, like, yeah, hit me with the paddle, but if there's a splinter embedded in my ass, can I go home?
Yeah.
There's, big difference there.
Right. For
Well,
sure.
and now, of course, I have to link to our episode with the good folks from Forbidden Fruit when
Yes.
Megan and Andy came and taught us how to make our own floggers and our own paddles and different fun toys out of your standard household items. So if anybody is stuck at home during quarantine and has a little bit of a creative streak and doesn't want to bake any more goddamn bread, this could be your newest fascination.
It will
hell,
also
even
be
a wooden
very
cooking spoon.
friendly, but will attract a very different crowd than your sourdough. So
Yeah.
True.
awesome. All right. So I guess my last question for you, Julian, before we hop on and take our last call for the night is, what are some words of encouragement that you would give to somebody who was thinking about exploring their kinky side a little bit more? What's something that you wish someone had told you going into all of this?
I guess it's okay. It's not wrong. The only wrong thing regarding kink is not being safe, not being sane, not being consensual. But it is okay to have these interests, these desires, these wants, these needs even. There shouldn't be any shame regarding it. And I understand that society, isn't, for the most part, entirely on that same page. And a lot of it has to do with just kind of digging deep within yourself and figuring out your own comfort levels, your own things that you need to work through. But there isn't anything wrong with you. There isn't anything wrong with having these desires. And anyone who says that you are wrong for that, fuck them. But don't actually. They're not worthy. But I think
Fair
that's
to say.
the biggest thing, that you're not wrong, you're not broken, you are okay for having these desires. And
I like
it's
that.
as simple as that.
That's good to know. That is good to keep in mind, because that is a thing that we focus on a lot here on this show. Is we are all about talking about this in a way that the only ground rule is consent, right? The only ground rule is making sure that both people or all people involved are happy and excited to be there and enthusiastically consenting to it. As long as you've got that down, we're good. Do you. Do what you can do.
Yeah, if that's the case, buckle up or down. Either way.
All right.